6 through 8. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified or afraid of them. For the Lord your God is the one who will go with you. He will not leave you or abandon you. Moses then summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and courageous, for you will go with his people into the land the Lord swore to give their ancestors. You will enable them to take possession of it. The Lord is the one who will go before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or abandon you. Do not be afraid or discouraged.
Morning. I want to start off by thanking those that helped this weekend. It's been a smashing success as far as I'm concerned. Anytime we plan this, you can know that it's going to be the hottest week of the year. So just be prepared for that. I want to thank the young people and their desire to serve God, to be together, grow closer in your relationships, and thank the parents for bringing them, allowing them to be with us, and continuing to grow in their relationship with God. Matt, you got to turn this down. We're talking about the God who sees. The God who sees. And you think about that perspective and really thinking about the song we just sang, which obviously was new to some of us, but it's awesome when you have a lot of people here that have sang that many times, and that some of us can just look at the words. And you think how beautiful those words are. We're talking about we're going to have scars. There's going to be difficulties that come in our life. But I'm going to have joy. I choose joy. Why? Because God is with me. He never once did you ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God. You are faithful. It's a beautiful song, beautiful words to this song. And you think about the whole point of this song is for us to truly understand that everything that I've gone through in this life, the good and the bad, as a child of the living God, He was right there with me, is right there with me. And that's why we want to talk a little bit about this morning. If you haven't done so, please open your Bibles to Deuteronomy, the 31st chapter. This is a chapter where Moses is addressing his final address. He is going to die, and he is preparing the people to go into Canaan. And Canaan was full of people that they were going to have to battle. And so in Deuteronomy, we see this. Joshua, the book of Joshua, we see this. This is a strong and courageous statement that is made. And it's not based on who Joshua was. Joshua was a good man. But he was going to be strong and courageous because of the one that was with him. And that's what Moses is telling him. In Deuteronomy 31 and verse 3, it says, It is the Lord your God who will cross ahead of you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you shall dispossess them. Joshua is the one who will cross ahead of you, just as the Lord has spoken. Joshua is going to lead them across, but it makes it really, really clear in verse 3, in the beginning, who is going to take care of the issues. You follow God. God is the one who's going to cross ahead of you. He is the one who will destroy the nations. You just need to obey Him. You need to obey Him. The verses that were read in verse 6, 7, and 8. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble at them. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. He talks about in verse 4 in particular, all these enemies that are out there. We've got to understand, the Israelites' army was just a regular army. It wasn't the biggest in the world at the time. What made them powerful was the God that was with them. And the dangerous part is when Israel began to have their own trust in themselves and not listening to what He was saying to them. and they begin to lose because it's God that separated them. It was God who was leading them. And that is no different when it comes to us today. So it goes on in verse 7 and says, Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all of Israel, "Be strong and courageous, for you shall go with the people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give to them, and you shall give it to them in inheritance." It's yours. It's yours. They haven't even crossed over there yet. God's going to give this to you. I want us to understand the reality of this. We go through this life and the troubles and tribulations of this life, very similar to what they were going to do when they go into Canaan. And the same thing is said of us. You have victory over everything that you go through in this life because of God being with you. And yet sometimes we struggle with it, just like the Israelites did. It's interesting how difficult it can be for us sometimes to understand that there is nowhere that you can hide from God. He is always with you. There may be times where you don't, as we talked about last night, feel Him. You don't understand why you're going through things. But the reality is that God is absolutely there with you, for you, and going to help you go through those things that we go through. Hebrews, the 4th chapter, and verse 12, talks about His Word and how sharp and active it is. But verse 13 says that there is no creature hidden from His sight, but all things are open and laid bare to the eyes of Him with whom we have to do. God knows all. He sees everything. He knows you. Over the weekend, we talked about how Jesus was able to sympathize with the things that we go through in this life. He understands our weaknesses, as Hebrews talks about. Think about that. He knows what it's like to grieve. He knows what it's like to be tempted. He knows what it's like to feel alone. He understands the things that we go through in this life. And we need to make sure that we turn to Him. When Jeremiah writes this, or talking of, obviously God is talking here, the understanding is that the people were not following God. They needed to come back. But there's a powerful good side of this story. Our God always is with us. Here he says, "Can a man hide himself in hiding places so that I cannot see him? Do not see him, declares the Lord. Do I not fill the heavens and the earth, declares the Lord?" There's nowhere you can go. Psalm 139, Jacob talked about as well. There's nowhere you can go. You can go to the highest of high, the lowest of lows. As far as physical location, there's nowhere you can go. He knows His people. He knows the things that we are going through. This phrase, El Roi, comes from Genesis, the 16th chapter, and verse 13. There's a lady by the name of Hagar, as again Jacob talked about on Friday night. Hagar was an Egyptian woman, and she was the maid of Sarah. And obviously there were some difficulties. We certainly know the story. If not, you definitely can read Genesis 16. But you have this woman named Hagar. And there were some difficulties that were going on with Sarah, and so she leaves. And as she's going, you can imagine from her perspective, she's in the middle of nowhere. She is not in Egypt. She's not home. She just leaves. And as she's going, all of a sudden, there's this angel of the Lord that comes to her. And there's this conversation in verse 11 from the angel of the Lord that you're going to have a son, you're going to bear a son, you're going to name him Ishmael, which, by the way, means God hears, which is fascinating in this conversation. But in verse 13, she says, this is Hagar, "Then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, 'You are a God who sees,' or El Roi. For she said, 'Have I ever even remained alive here after seeing him?'" She's in the middle of nowhere. And yet God knows exactly where she is. She wasn't an Israelite. And yet God knows exactly where she is. God knows. God knows His creation. God knows exactly what you are going through. In chapter 21 is where Ishmael and Hagar leave, and she didn't want to watch him die. And it says that God hears Ishmael's crying. And so you think about, again, that perspective, how amazing it was for Hagar and Ishmael in this story. But the important parts of reading these stories is for us to make application of them. He knows what you're going through. One of the things that we can struggle with so much is when we pray to God and we try to be very respectful, which is understandable. And instead of saying, God, I'm just struggling with things, we try to sugarcoat it or pretend like He doesn't know what we're actually going through. I'm struggling, God. I'm angry. He knows you are. Talk to Him. Just talk to Him. He's your Father that already knows the emotions that you're dealing with, the struggles that you're going through. Talk to Him. He is not a Father that is far away from us, but one that is walking with us every step of the way. When we go through difficulties, as I said earlier, He knows. And we need to be willing to find trust and confidence in the fact that He absolutely does that. Over in Exodus, the 3rd chapter, there's this story about Moses, and he sees this burning bush. And there's some, I think Albert brought this up over the weekend, talking about the excuses and the different things that happened in this chapter. But I want you to notice verse 7, what the Lord says here. I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have given heed to their cry because of their taskmasters, for I am aware of their sufferings. What an amazing verse this is. I am aware of their sufferings. I know the affliction of my people. Guess who the people are today of God? He knows your affliction. He knows the struggles you go through. He knows when you come into a building and try to hide them and pretend everything is fine. He knows. And He has surrounded you with people that can help you if you're willing to ask for the help. But our God knows exactly what we're going through. God, I'm struggling with my faith. Even in the Scriptures it'll talk about that. I believe in you. Help my unbelief, it said to Jesus. Help me continue to grow. Let me read your word and grow closer to you. It's a tremendous opportunity that we have. And yet sometimes we just talk about it instead of actually allowing it to occur. This amazing relationship that we can have with God. Psalm 10, verse 14 says, But you have seen, for you observe trouble and grief, to repay it by your hand. The helpless commits himself to you. You are the helper of the fatherless. He observes the trouble and the grief. He knows the struggles and the heartaches that we go through. 2 Corinthians, the 1st chapter, calls Him the God of all comfort. What a horrible thing it is for us to know that we have a relationship with the God of all comfort and never lean on Him for that comfort. What a sad thing that is. He has offered you this amazing comfort, this amazing peace that Noah talked about in his prayer. And we must lean on Him and understand that He is seeing you. He knows the things that you do. And a lot of times we view this from a negative perspective, and there's no question about that. He sees the things that we do. But I want to spend a little time on the good that He sees. You turn over to Revelation, the 2nd chapter. Here at West Mason, we're studying Revelation in a Thursday class, and so as the congregation knows here, whenever I'm teaching something, we turn there a lot. So we're in Revelation. Revelation, the 2nd chapter and the 3rd chapter are these letters that are written to the churches. And every single one of them, we're told this very point. There's a verse in every single one of them that God is saying, that Jesus here is saying, I know. I know what you're going through. I know the struggles. Here in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, the first church that he writes to in Ephesus in verse 2, he says, I know your deeds and your toil and your perseverance, and that you cannot tolerate evil men, and you have put to test those who call themselves apostles, and they are not, and you found them to be false, and you have perseverance and have endured for my name's sake and have not grown weary. But I have this against you, that you have left your first love. You read the first two verses that we just read, 2 and 3, they've done some good things. But God knows the things that we do, the good that was being done, and the things that we can have the opportunity to work on. You skip over to verse 19 to the church at Thyatira. He uses very similar words here, I want you to notice. I know your deeds and your love and faith and service and perseverance, and that your deeds of late are greater than the first. But I have this against you, that you tolerate the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, and she teaches and leads my bondservants astray so that they commit acts of immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols. When he talks to Ephesus, he says, you can't tolerate evil, but you've left your first love. Here he says, I know your love, but you're tolerating evil. He knows his people. There's similar things that occur here in these churches that he writes to. You have one who was a very poor congregation, and he says, you're rich spiritually. You have one that was a very wealthy congregation in Laodicea, and he says, you're poor. But one of my favorite parts that is written here, that hopefully we can all find comfort in, is what he says to them in Sardis in Revelation, the 3rd chapter. Sardis, it says in verse 1, had a name that they were alive, but they were dead. And he tells them, you need to wake up. You need to wake up and understand what you need to fix. But I want you to notice verse 4. In this same congregation that he says, you have a dead, that you're dead, that you need to wake up, he says this. But you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their garments, and they will walk with me in white, for they are worthy. Even in the midst of a congregation that was struggling, obviously, to say the least, their relationship with God, he still knew those that were. As individuals making up a congregation, he knows every single one of us intimately. He knows you. Albert pointed out over the weekend in Luke the 19th chapter, when you think about every time, and certainly you see this a few times with Jesus, but he would know their names. When he looks up and he sees Zacchaeus, he knows Zacchaeus. He knows your name. Your God knows your name. That is an amazing thing to say. There are people here that I've met before, don't, unless you have a name tag on. But your God knows all about you. He knows you. I heard that there are some here that think I'm Jacob Taylor. I'm the older one. I appreciate that. But we need to understand that our God knows us. He knows the good, the amazing things that we go through and yet are willing to share and to continue to have joy because of Him, to glorify Him by allowing our light to shine. He is a just God. He is a God who knows our toil. In 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, a conversation that's going on about the resurrection, what's going to happen with those that have died. And this conversation continues on, and it starts talking about this victory. You have victory because of Jesus Christ. As God's people, we need to live as victors. There's way too often people get caught up looking at this world as though we're defeated. I'm a victor. I'm a child of God. That's a totally different perspective when you look at this world. And we need, as God's children, to look at it this way. In 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, in verse 58, he ends this chapter by saying, because of the fact that you have victory, because of this resurrection, he says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your toil is not in vain in the Lord. Even if everybody else doesn't follow, even if everyone else looks down at you, Your God knows the toil that you're going through. One of the dangers, again, we can fall into is we forget what the definition of success needs to be as a child of God. We need to let our light shine, and we need to glorify our God in all that we do. That's the definition. I love the story of Noah from that perspective. Noah preached for years. How many people did he save? That's awkward. And God was pleased with him, wasn't he? Because it was about what Noah was doing. What Noah did. Everybody else has their own choice of what they're going to do and what they're going to make. But I have a choice myself. You have a choice yourself. And our toil is not in vain. In Hebrews, the 6th chapter, after talking about how people are going to fall away, or we can fall away, we need to mature and grow. In verse 10, he says, "For God is not unjust so as to forget your work and the love which you have shown towards his name, in having ministered and in still ministering to the saints." Now, this is important to take this verse as a whole. This isn't about merit. This isn't about doing works as though you're going to earn salvation, or to look back and see all the good that you have done. That's not what this verse says. God knows the good that you do, and he knows the love which you've shown. He knows what you've ministered, and then all of a sudden there's a present, that you're still doing it. You're constantly living for him. He is a God who sees all the time. All the time. He never grows weary of seeing you. And we need to understand how awesome he is. I put these verses back up again, or the chorus of the song. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God. You are faithful. I know there are people that are going through difficult times. Tremendously difficult times. And I know that there's others that I don't know of that are. And that's what's so powerful to me. All of us here have the stories. All of us here have things that we go through, good and bad. But what we have in common is that our God knows each and every one of them. Every single one. And I pray and hope that you understand that you can have confidence in him. That just as David writes in Psalm 23, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me." He's still going to go through the valley of the shadow of death. He does. And so do we. We still go through the valleys of this life. But we can go with our God through those valleys. And he is going to help us through those valleys. We need to understand what he offers us. I know there are some here that do not have a relationship with God. And hopefully what you've seen, as the verse up there talks about, he is faithful. He's done his part. He sent his son to die for you. He loves you. He is so patient with us that he's given us this very moment for all of us to make sure we're right with him. And if you're not, let us help you. Let us help you. If you need to obey the gospel, do not wait. If you have questions, ask them. As always, make sure you're praying for one another, encouraging one another. But if there's anything that we can do for you right now, I ask you to please come as we stand and sing.